Sydney, hopefully today or tomorrow.
No, well. Actually, one you're wearing. Actually, I've got one of those you've got on.
Oh, one of these ones, the polos.
Yeah.
Are you refusing to wear purple? Are you, Pipes? Wow. Okay. I see where this is going.
Right. That's your team colour.
That's it, mate.
That's the Northerners' colour.
I'm with you, Pipes. We'll change it on the day, mate.
Yep. I'll keep it guessing. We make it look good. That's the problem.
You still get your tie-dye?
Very good. I think we've got everyone now. Massage. Oh, yep.
Geordie's on.
Brandon, yep. Massage has dropped off, but yeah, I think that's everybody.
Hi, guys.
And there's Anna.
Anna.
Cool. I think we're good to go. Mr. Solsky.
Kick her off.
So welcome everyone, and welcome to the Sophos team. Today's session will be on Q&A on MDR selling and I believe some examples for the sales team. So this is, we hope that most of you have done the online MDR training. So I don't think we're going to cover the basics, but I'll give the floor to Robert and Andrew to take us through and answer any of your questions about the launch that's happening on Friday as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Over to you guys.
Yeah, so as you all know, we've got a bit of planning happening for this Friday, where we're going to see the Mexicans, as Scott puts them, show the Northerners how it's done.
Yes, we will.
So it's going to be a good day. So the idea today was just to do a quick refresh, the highlights, what is MDR, just to go over it again. Also open it up for full Q&A. So whatever questions anyone's got, and Andrew as well, who is our enterprise sales director, has kindly jumped on board so he can give a few tips. So 101 about when you're making a cold call to a customer or a warm call to a customer about MDR, look for this or ask for this sort of question. So he's going to go through that as well. And we also got Kev on the call. I think most of you know Kev. He's based up in Sydney, and on Friday he will be on the losing team up there as well, so helping you guys out. So we'll see how we go. So,
Rob, is Aaron joining us? Do you know?
Aaron's attempting to get on. He's just got an EWS, I think, that he's brought into. So for everyone who doesn't know Aaron Jacobs is our global engineer for MDR, and he's hoping to jump on to do some Q&A as well, but he's just been called into an emergency MDR incident. So he will jump on if he gets a chance to. Also on Friday, there's going to be a few people from Sophos joining the Melbourne and Sydney teams. So myself, obviously, down in Melbourne, as well as Gotham, and Steve Salisbury, I believe, is going to come in as well. And obviously, you've got Kev, and there might be, I think, John and maybe Candace might drop in as well. So we'll see. You should have a few people on each team, so it should be a lot of fun on the day. So if anyone's got any questions, I will kick off the MDR refresh.
Very good. Nope, go for it.
Everyone's good. Excellent. Give me one sec. All right, everyone see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Alrighty. Like I said, most of you probably already seen this. It's just to really just re-jog your memory, yell out if you've got any questions, if you need me to go over in more detail. But essentially, MDR, it is our lead product over here at Sophos. It is a service product. So it's not hardware or software. It's the service layer that goes over the top. It's also the biggest, most booming product we've ever seen as well. So it's definitely the right time for you guys to get all over it and start pushing it. I think Michael just mentioned it before. You've all probably done your sales certs. For those who haven't, there is 2 of them. The Sales SCO1, which is a generic software sales cert, and it's a mandatory requirement with Sophos as a partner. And there's also the MDR cert. Now, it does say 1 hour, but anyone who hasn't done it, you pretty much knock it off in about 20 minutes, maybe a bit longer for the Northerners, but the Southerners generally get it done in about 15, 20 minutes. So anyone who hasn't done that one, please jump on. We also bring out every year a sales delta as well. So an update on the product, again, takes half an hour to an hour to knock off. And there is one coming in a couple of months for SCO1. So if you haven't done that one, have a chat with Michael. He's got all the access. We can get you up and running. All right. So I always like starting with this statement because it really does sum up the entire security market at the moment. And that cybersecurity is so complex, so difficult, and moves so fast that most organizations simply can't manage it effectively on their own. It really does sum up what is happening out there in the market at the moment. So when you do these calls to customers, always keep that in mind. It's the first time in my 17 years in the space that I've ever seen customers proactively asking to have a conversation about security. Normally it's the absolute opposite, right? It's pulling teeth and they're like, oh, I don't need to talk about that. That's tomorrow's problem. Now it's the opposite. Double-edged sword, the media, but thanks to them, they've obviously shaken it up a bit as well. But now is the time. So when you call up, you'll find you're going to get a bit of a better response from your customers because of pretty much that statement. A couple of points here, just following from that. So cyber threats are accelerating in a volume and sophistication. So that one highlighted there, 78% increase in the amount of organizations that got hit with ransomware last year. Everyone thought that last few years were going to be the peak and it's, everyone's getting, back on track. It's still getting worse. I think a lot of that is also to do with the Aussie way of life, the she'll be right, mate sort of attitude to cybersecurity. So I think we're sort of dragged our feet a little bit because of that and predominantly being SMB as well. Why would they want to hit me? I've only got 40 employees. Well, the answer to that is about 70% of attacks on SMB, so sub 100, are successful. So why do you think attackers are going after that space? Because 70% of the time they get through. Your 1,000 plus is about 3% success rate. So, it's Australia is definitely a prime target. Second point there, cybersecurity tools are overwhelmingly costly and complex. Now that's referring to the management tools. So the tools to actually manage the cybersecurity platform, because there is so many alerts and so many logs and everything you need to go through that you've now got to have a platform to actually manage the platform. And the cost of managing that is highly complex, and you need to have specific people that know how to do it. Generally, you'll find that your generic IT people are handballing it off saying, no way, this is a separate area that needs to be looked at. Which goes into that third point there, hiring and retaining cybersecurity experts. Well, ask anyone, in fact, you guys internally yourselves, it is to get a high-level security analyst these days is very, very difficult. So there's just not enough people to do it. So you've got these customers, especially a customer, sub 500 seats, they generally won't have that sort of budget to have a dedicated security team, let alone IT management. Hence outsourcing to someone like Spirit for their IT. They're now saying, well, we need to outsource the security as well. It is just too hard. We cannot get the people, and there's too many moving parts. There's too many specializations. So because of those three things, that statement on the left there that I read out comes into effect. Does that make sense? Does everyone agrees? That pretty much sums up the market. So that's what you've got to really, really understand, because when you have these calls with your customers, that's what's going through their mind is, I'm in trouble. I need help. All right. So the answer to that problem is Sophos MDR. So MDR stands for Managed Detection and Response. And like I said before, it is a service that overlays on top of the product. So a couple of good statements for those Gartner fans in there. There's a million of them. Every industry expert are all saying the same sort of thing. No one has enough people to do security, by Peter from Gartner back in March. Threat landscape is too big and too complex from 451 research. So all the experts are saying it, the customers are saying it. So what I'm getting at is don't be afraid to have a very straightforward conversation with your customer. You don't need to convince them to have the conversation. You just got to start having it, because they want to. Further to that, I love this slide because it's real. This is In fact, I think Aaron, who just joined the call, might have actually been at this event in Sydney last year at the CISO conference. We put this whiteboard up there and we asked people like, CISOs from companies like Qantas, some pretty big heavy hitters. And we said, what are you missing when it comes down to it? And you can clearly see, people are saying, yeah, technology I've pretty much got. There's a lot of green ticks. I've got firewall, I've got endpoint, I've got all the products. Is ransomware protected? Yeah, it's protected by that technology. But do I have the people to do something with it? Who's managing it? Who's making it work? Who's doing something when the red lights are flashing saying, hey, something's not right, you need to do something, and it's 3 a.m. on a Sunday? The answer is no one. They don't have anyone to do it, or they don't have anyone that knows what to do to make it happen. And process. One that gets overlooked time and time again is you might have some people that know what they're doing, but most businesses don't have good processes around what to do when a threat occurs. Okay, not if, when it occurs. So it's just a really sort of, again, driving home customers, this is what they're looking at. That is an actual photo from an event where customers came up and ticked the box and said straight out, we don't have this. These are billion-dollar companies with big budget. So what's a company with 50 or 100, 200 employees going to be doing? They need to outsource. So cybersecurity as a service. What is it in a nutshell? It's instantly gives the customer a security operations center, or a SOC for short. For those who don't really know what a SOC is, it's a bunch of IT nerds sitting in a dark room like NASA looking at a big screen, monitoring all these endpoints for all those flashing lights that I was mentioning before, okay? So when the flashing lights start going nuts, they jump all over it and they know what to do. So that's what a SOC is. 24/7, really, really important. It is 24/7. Most of these customers, when you ask them, say, yeah, I've got a guy who knows security and he looks after us. It's like, cool, does he work at 3 a.m. on Sunday? The answer is no. So 24/7. Hackers aren't convenient. They're not going to come and knock on your door at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. It's going to be at a time where no one's actually looking at things. So 24/7 is really, really important. Expert-led threat hunting. Once something happens, to have people that know what they're doing to actually do something with the alerts and chase the threat down. I'll come across it a bit later in the presentation, but remember, time is one of the most important things to look at. Once a threat happens, time, how fast you react, how fast you shut it down, and how fast you get people out of your environment. So something to keep in mind. So the Sophos stack, as you'll probably know, especially if you've done the training, we've got end-to-end. So the Sophos stack covers pretty much everything: endpoint, network, cloud, email, all the bits and bobs. The part we're specifically looking at is that layer up the top there. So self-managed is what traditionally people have always used, and it's now in today's world where people are falling over. They're just straight out saying, I need someone to do it for us. So that purple section there is what is the lead product. Fun fact as well, every partner that in the last 12 months that has led a security conversation with service rather than product, whether they sell the service or not, they have seen an uplift in the sales of the product. So having the conversation around service and leading with that and then worrying about product is the way to go. It's proven. So why is Sophos MDR the best? Quite simply, up until recently, there's been two flavors of MDR, or security service. One is bring your own technology. So the likes of Arctic Wolf and SecureWorks, Red Canary, etc., where they'll basically overlay across the technology you have, but it's really, really limited. Okay, so they will collect security data from multiple sources, but it's pretty much guidance only. They'll say, hey, you probably should do this and that. We noticed something over here, you probably should go do something about it. Still leaves an awful lot for of expertise for the customer to try and work out. The other one is single vendor, which is where MDR originally started, used to be known as MTR, which is where you use the product of that vendor. So CrowdStrike, for example, Microsoft SentinelOne, etc. You've got to have their product in order for them to be able to do something. So both versions are really, really limited. Where Sophos MDR came in, and we officially launched back in November, is best of both worlds. And this is also what puts you guys in the position to be able to sell a product that actually has no competitor. There is no one that can do what Sophos MDR does, and that is best of both worlds. You can use Sophos products and we'll manage it, not only give you guidance, but we'll manage it, find the issue, mitigate it, kick the hackers out of the network, the whole lot. And we can do that, but we can also use, for example, Microsoft. Every customer uses Microsoft. So if they've got Microsoft, they've already made an investment, and they don't want, they're not ready to rip and replace, no problem. Our product will work with that vendor, same as Fortinet on your firewalls, or Cisco, so all your big players. So basically, it doesn't matter what security vendor the customer has. If they're in a position where they still need to financially, exhaust those products, they can still get the management across the whole lot. And that's what makes it absolutely unique. And Aaron, I know you're on the call. Jump in if you want to add anything. You're the renowned expert on this one.
Mate, you're doing a good job. I'll let you keep going, buddy.
Awesome. All right. So this one's a better slide because it kind of puts it in perspective with a few icons. So Sophos, obviously, you've got all our products across the top there, and they all integrate into our MDR platform, so our management platform. So we pull the telemetry from our firewalls, from our cloud platform, our email endpoint, XDR, the whole lot. All the telemetry comes into a data lake. All the nerds like Aaron sit there and trill through it and have a look and pull it apart and work out what's going on. They see that it's actually Josh's computer. He's been doing something naughty. So we shut down that device and stop it, reaching out across the network and infecting Scott. So we take it from the telemetry from those sources. But now we also take it from other areas as well. So like I was saying before, Microsoft, Checkpoint, Trend, SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, doesn't matter the endpoint. If it's a major vendor, there's obviously not every vendor, but the vast majority are there, and Aaron's team are adding more and more every day to it. But if they've got one of those ones, the telemetry from those products will go into it so we can see what's going on. Firewall, cloud, email, identity, so things like Okta and Duo, a lot of customers are moving to those platforms now. And of course, network, so Darktrace, FalsePoint, and the list goes on. So the entire environment within the customer across multiple vendors, all the telemetry can be pulled in for the IT teams to sit there, pull it apart, and protect the customers. Just because we like to make it even better again, is these are the inclusions out of the box. Okay, so you use Sophos MDR, this is straight away. There's no add-ons, there's no additional costs. They're all right there for you, as in the integrations, that is. So we don't give you a firewall, you still got to buy a firewall, but the integrations into the MDR management platform out of the box. Microsoft Graph Security, obviously the big important one. As I said before, why fight against it, right? Microsoft are in every customer. They use Word, they use Excel, they buy it as 365 as a package. It comes with Defender, it comes with a bunch of different stuff. It integrates straight in. So for those who don't know, Microsoft Graph Security essentially is their repository of all their data, where all the analytics go. So we hook into that and we pull the whole lot out straight out of the box. You see in green down the bottom there, 90-day data retention. This one's super important, especially post an event when you need to go back and start looking at things. And some events will happen and 30, 60 days after the hack has happened, they're now trying to trawl through data and work out how it happened, why it happened, how do they stop it from happening in the future. And a lot of these products traditionally have only done 30 days. So out of the box, Sophos now do 90 days. So you've got a really good chunk of history there to go through and look at what you need. Just also point out, the product uses our endpoint. Now, whether the customer wants to use the protection of the endpoint, it's still included. So if you sell MDR, and the customer is in the market for their actual endpoint security as well as the management, well, guess what? You don't have to pay for it on top. It's already included and it just needs to be enabled. So it's a big advantage just there as well. So when you get the good old, oh yeah, but I had to buy Microsoft 365 and it came with Defender for free. It's a moot point now. Yeah, that's fine. You need management. You've just bought that. Well, the endpoint with Sophos is free as well. Use whichever you prefer. And, top tip, most Microsoft customers, 6 months or so into the product, end up looking at it going, why don't we just use what's sitting there for free? Sophos are, already doing the management. Makes sense that they use their product. And we find a lot of customers switch over after the fact. So something to keep in mind there as well. So the actual add-on components, these ones do have a cost and it's priced as per user. So if you've got 200 users of MDR, you have 200 users of the add-on. So it's a nice, simple way of doing it. So firewall is probably the big one on there that we see the most. So a customer will have a Fortinet firewall or a checkpoint firewall. You don't have to buy multiple packs per vendor. You simply just match the firewalls with the users. So you have 200 users and they've got firewalls. They could have 10 firewalls across 10 sites with 10 different vendors. It doesn't matter. You buy the one pack times the amount of users and it covers their entire third-party firewall network. Same with identity, network, email, cloud. There's also the in green you see down there for data retention. A lot of customers are opting to pay a little bit extra and get 1 year of data retention. So you can actually bump that right out as well. In blue at the top left, you'll see Sophos MDR, Network Detection Response. It's a new product that we've released that at the moment you can only buy it. Stop me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but you can only buy it with Sophos MDR. And essentially it's a device that you plug into the network, straight into the monitoring port of the switch, and it pulls all the rogue information. So you've got a customer with a whole heap of, bring your own devices or IoT, things where we can't put an actual endpoint or some kind of, bit of software to pull the logs. We basically pick up all the rogue signals directly out of the switch as it comes through and push it all into the data lake. So it's a really good one again for people with BYOD and things like that. Flavors. We all like options, right? So there's 3 options you can get. So Threat Advisor, which is the basic one, is really designed, it's not really big in Australia, but it's really designed for people who already have a really strong team and they don't want to, or they're not ready to move over to a Sophos endpoint. So they just bought Trend or whatever they're running, and they just want the intel. Okay, they don't want us to do anything. They just want us to basically flag and tell them what's there so they can work out what to do. MDR or MDR standard, which is that orange one in the middle there. This is basically covers everything except that last mile. So we'll monitor things, we'll give advice, we do everything, we'll triage, okay? So we'll catch things, we'll isolate it and stop it, but then we don't do that last mile, which is the cleanup afterwards, okay? So the actual full incident response where we eliminate all the threats, we monitor it to make sure it's happened, write all the reports of, the root cause, how it happened, why, have a dedicated person to explain all that. Top tip, super important if the customer's relying on insurance as well, because if anyone's ever gone through it, insurance companies want to know all the details of how it happened, why, I want the documentation. Well, this is an important one, and that's where Sophos MDR Complete, which is pretty much the go-to. It's where most customers go for. They look at it and say, well, if I'm going to get someone to manage it, I may as well get them to manage the whole lot, right? Not just do halfway and then stop it, which is awesome, but then hand it over to us to finish off. We may as well get it all done and done properly. Hence, MDR Complete is that full end-to-end service. All right, what powers it? People. Literally people. Remember I was saying that, at the very start, one of the big things is trying to find security experts. They're a dime a dozen. There's only one of Aaron, unfortunately. But, when you do find them, they're important. And we've got over 500. In fact, I think we're pushing it over, coming up on 600 people globally that make this product or this platform actually work. And it's made up of a few teams. So you've got the MDR SecOps analyst team. So the people that sit there and pull apart all the code and work out what's going on. The data scientists that then write code to make it automatically stop things that were seen in the past. The researchers, and then the actual security professionals on top of all that. So that combined gives us a very, very big advantage. So imagine going to a customer and saying you're going to have 500 dedicated people making sure that nothing's missed in your network. It's a pretty big statement. That's also across 6 different locations as well. So it's a follow the sun sort of environment. So with 6 SOCs, operation centers, globally strategically positioned all around. So, when Aaron, we finally let him go to bed, his counterparts in India, and then I think it's Dallas or wherever it is in the States, they all kick in one by one and away they go. So there's 20, that's how we do the 24/7 coverage. Reporting, we all love a bit of reporting, right? Now, the good thing about these reports is they come out, monthly, weekly, etc., but they're also really easy to read, okay? So you don't need to go and have an IT degree to be able to actually understand what's going on. These reports are nice and, lots of pretty pictures and colors and stuff like that. So, people like Scott in management that like pretty pictures can actually read these nice and easily, okay? nice graphs, not too many words and data. And these can either go out, directly to customers, like come to you guys as your IT help desk, and then you can integrate it into your monthly report or quarterly report to your customers. So there's a variety of options. So always keep in mind, this product is designed around partners as well. So while, yes, the preference is for you and the customer to give us authority to take immediate action, you can also do what's called notify only mode. So let's say you've got a customer and for whatever reasons, you guys are the absolute lead. The customer will only trust Spirit to do anything. No problem. We'll still monitor it 24/7 and we'll have a call list where at whatever time it is, when we see something happens, Aaron's going to call Scott. If he doesn't answer, he's going to call Jared. If Jared doesn't answer, you get the idea. So we can have a notify option where we work through you guys, or we literally jump all over it at 2 a.m., make it happen. And then when Scott wakes up, Aaron will walk him through and say, hey, this is what happens. This is what I need you to go do, and take it from there. So it's really, really flexible to work around your methodology with your management and your customers. All right, we're almost there. I love this one. Does anyone remember this from the previous one we did about 4 or 5 months ago? See if anyone does. What is the average time to close an incident via an in-house security operations center? So one, that's assuming they found it, but then once the incident's found, investigate it, hunt it down, kick them out, close it all off. Anyone want to have a crack what you reckon the average time is?
Come on, Anna, you'll get it.
I think
No?
it was like 7 minutes, wasn't it?
7 minutes.
In-house, a week.
I'd say 45 minutes.
45. 16 hours.
Whoopsie.
16 hours. That is a long time. Aaron, out of curiosity, as the IT nerd in the group here, how much damage do you reckon someone could cause behind in someone's environment or in their environment behind the security for, let's say, 1 hour? They're there with uncontested for 1 hour. What sort of damage do you reckon they could do?
So I can tell you firsthand from this morning from a certain person in Queensland that I was just on the phone with. The damage was from about Sunday morning 1 a.m. till about Sunday 7 a.m. from initial access through to ransomware. Completely destroyed the environment. So yeah, it's not long at all. 16 hours. We can probably get to the moon and back in 16 hours. So yeah, a lot of damage could be done in 20 minutes. So yeah, you got to be quick.
So this slide alone is one of the key components to decision making. So when you're working with your customers, this is a really important one. Making sure the customers understand that time is the most critical thing when it comes to security. If something happens, finding it and shutting it down is critical. 16 hours is the average. Sophos MDR is currently averaging 38 minutes. That is a wild difference. Okay, and this is why it is going bonkers. Everyone is just flocking to the product because at 38 minutes, there is no one even close to doing that, especially in-house. Let alone the fastest industry at the moment is 3.7. And we're seeing up to 30 hours as some of the longer end of that one, which is, all sorts of trouble. So 38 minutes, really important number to make sure that you've always got that number in your head. How long would it take you, Mr. Customer, at 4 a.m. on Saturday to actually work out what's going on and end-to-end shut it down, kick the thread out, make sure the business is safe? The answer is probably about 12 hours before we come back online and actually know what's happening. So 38 minutes. In-house SOC, just for a bit of fun, anyone want to have a crack at how much it would cost on average to build your own version of MDR? So do exactly what MDR will give a customer, but do it in-house. And so this is examples for 150 users. 150 users, 3 servers. No firewall add-ons, nice and simple, just pure endpoints. What do you reckon per year?
300K.
300K? Yeah. Come on, Scott, you've always got the answers.
No, let the others play today. I always talk too much. I'm being quiet for a change. It's hard to do,
$500,000.
$500,000, 300K, yeah, per year. All right, try 1.7. The vast majority of that is that purple section there. People. We keep coming back to that one, right? Expertise is expensive. To run 24/7, whether it's 10 users or about 250, it's pretty much the same cost. You've got to have a manager who's running it. You've got to have shift leads. You've got to have the analysts. You've got to have the engineers. By the time you add all these people up, that's big cost. And that doesn't take into account the process component. You can't really put a dollar figure on that. I was saying at the start, right? Business is fully aware they don't have the processes and know what to do, even if they have the people. So MDR gives you all of that, including the process. So if you ever need to, Aaron can give you some great stories about, what happens when things that suddenly alarm bells ring and how fast the action kicks in and what we actually do. We can do that one in the Q&A at the end if you guys want. But as you can see, it is a very, very simple bit of maths there. Breach warranty, just because, we like the whole steak knives approach, you've got to have that little bit of extra. The product is that good that Sophos in-house back our own product with a warranty. So we don't even outsource the warranty. So most products will have a warranty as well. They're a fair bit different to ours. They're nowhere near as good, but basically you got $1 million, up to $1 million, which is I think it's $1,000 US, Aaron, per device. To fix it up. Now that's different to your insurance. Don't confuse it with the two. Insurance look at things like loss of business and all that sort of stuff. This is if a customer gets breached. Let's say it's just one device. So we'll go back to Josh. All right, Josh did something naughty and clicked on something he shouldn't. His device has gone bad. MDR teams missed it. Okay, highly unlikely, but let's say they did miss it and the device did get breached, and you guys, as Spirit at looking after that customer, there's a cost of fixing that device. You've got to go there. You've got to pull out. You've got to rebuild it. There's a bit of dollars in there. So this allows the customer to have a backup of a cost where we didn't stop it in time. So you've got that. Obviously, there's T's and C's, and you can go through that. But essentially, that's what it is for. Just want to drop this one here. There's a lot of red dots on that list. So yeah, the competitors have it as well. But it's only when you got their product, and in some cases it's only for 10,000 seats plus. That's really good when we're in a market in Australia where 70% of businesses are sub 500, 10,000 plus for your warranty. It's really backing your product. Some are only saying it's only in the first 12 months. After that, now you're on your own. We don't back it after that. So it's really important to sort of drill down in the details on the warranty that is offered, in what it actually comes with. The Sophos one is very good. It is completely covered. All right, to finish it off, customers are always one camp or the other. They either live and die by Gartner and reviews, or they're like whatever. But just in case anyone on the call is a Gartner fan in the Gartner fan club, and they have customers that are, we've got a whole pack just on how good this product is. Every industry body out there, Gartner and Search 51 and all of them are all putting MDR at the top of the list, all in the top right quadrant, the whole lot. So you name one and it's there, the whole lot. To finish off, we've got a few things. MDR out of the box ticks a lot of boxes. I've got a similar presentation slide deck on insurance as well. So those customers that are really trying to work out how do I tick all these boxes for insurance, we've got one pre-done where we say these are the main things insurance companies look for. Obviously, every insurance is different, but these are the main sort of 5 or 6, and this is where MDR tick those boxes. Insurance companies love that. This one's from the Signals Directorate. I assume everyone knows who the Signals Directorate are. If you're not, please get on board and follow them on LinkedIn for all their updates. But this is a nice little slide where we can see where MDR already ticks off the bulk of the 35 requirements or recommendations from the Signals Directorate for all businesses to adhere to. So MDR, you can see the story where we're going, right? It ticks every box all the way, and this is why customers are just going crazy for it. If you like logos, there's millions of these. There's some big brands in there. There's some Aussie ones. There's some international ones. I mean, customers like Google are now running this product. There's universities in Australia that are running this product. There's government departments that are running this product. The product is being sold and bought by every customers across from 3 users to 30,000 users, right? There is huge range of who is buying it. It's not aimed at a certain market. It covers the whole range. So don't have customers saying, oh yeah, but I've only got 20 employees. Do I really need that? Well, hell yeah, you do. Who else is going to manage it? So, it doesn't matter what vertical you're in. Oh, we're in education. We need stuff specialists. Well, guess what? We've got a slide deck just for education or just manufacturing. So it doesn't matter the industry. This product is amazing. It literally covers the whole lot because it doesn't matter what you do. Security is security. If you have digital data, you have a necessary requirement to make sure it is safe. Done. There's the update. So if anyone separately to this wants to do a different session and deep dive into certain areas, just yell out. We can do it whenever you guys want. But off the back of that, yell out with any questions as we go. But this is where I'm going to flick over to Andrew to tell us just how to sell it.
Just how to sell it.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Rob. Nicely done. Good pitch. I haven't got prepared slides, have I, Rob? I'm just going to talk through this, correct?
Just going to talk your expertise.
Team. So when you think about it, and it's 101 when we go to market, the biggest thing for us is establishing what we're up against. You heard from Rob. He talks about internal SOCs versus external SOCs, internal capability versus external capability. And we always have a range of the sort of discovery questions to first establish, is there a need? Is there an internal SOC? Who does your remediation? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll go through a couple of discovery questions, which I've just put together that I seem to come across in almost every engagement. But the most important thing for me is we never present the MDR slides first up. Most of the conversations are journey to MDR. One of the things that has happened over the last year is that MDR and XDR are well-known terms in industry. So if we make sure we understand what the customer's understanding of MDR is, much later in the cycle, it's more about the need for MDR. So we'd ask questions, for example, really, if you know the customer really well, you can dispense with some of the earlier questions. If you know the customer really well, you know what their setup's like, it's pretty easy. But in general, we'll ask questions as how big is your IT team? Are any of your team security specialists? You heard from Rob, security specialists are hard to find. Are they experts in EDR, XDR? And these are sort of the opening questions we always lead almost every conversation. And 98% of our conversations lead towards MDR as a service. And to correct you a little bit there, Rob, it's a service, not product, right? So we don't even get to the product side of things. So we talk mostly as a service. We established, does the board, the CFO, CEO, CISO understand the security landscape? Because one of the things that we found early on when we presented MDR, a lot of the time you're preaching to the converted, so they understand the landscape. They understand ransomware is a massive threat. So it's more, if you understand that from a customer perspective, we don't spend too much time on that. We'll go through the landscape, the threat landscape, to say, by the way, a very good chance you're going to get hit. So what do we do when we get hit? So in terms of those opening questions, if you don't know the customer, talk through incident response plans. Do you practice your incident response plans? Again, it's nothing about Sophos, nothing about MDR. It's about incident response. And if you practice your incident response, what do you do if you've got 5 people on your incident response team and take one of them out? Do you practice the fact that the CEO is on holiday and he can't sign anything off? So we lead them to the discussion around MDR as opposed to an MDR presentation. And then we ask sort of discovery questions like, do you feel a group of specialists, security specialists 24/7 working as an extension of your team would be beneficial? Why do you say that? Who does, as Rob said, what happens at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning when there's a breach or an attack? Who gets up? Who gets contacted? Who takes care of it? What is the incident response plan? So that's the first step. We do this discovery piece. Do you have an internal SOC? One of the biggest qualification questions is if they have an internal SOC, it is a very different conversation to talking about MDR. if you're up against an internal SOC. You saw Rob's examples that internal SOC versus external SOC. For obvious reasons, you wouldn't present that if you knew you're up against an internal SOC, right? So it was about changing the conversation, the journey, and understanding what it is around MDR and then leading them to MDR as a service. I'll pause there. That's the big issue. If you don't know the customer, we don't know their setup. So the first step is around people and process. Do we understand? Do they have the people? Do they have the process in their organization to run an effective threat landscape and remediation service? I'll just pause there first up. Any questions?
No, but I'll make a statement, Andrew. I think you really touched on the big points we're finding a lot of is that really that basic question, like at the start, you said customers wanting to know what their security posture is. I like to hear this new word, buzzword posture, but what does it mean to them? And then how do you measure that? What do you actually look at to get that conversation going? Like you said, the product comes at the end of it, but it's how do you walk them through that little journey to get to MDR?
Yeah, and we spent quite a bit of time on that. Once we've established that, and to be honest, it's 8-9 times out of 10 they don't have the people to do it, and they don't have the process in place to do it. 9 times out of 10, then it's getting into some of the more sort of detailed aspects around the service that again leading them to the journey. So then once we've established the need, we know we're not up against an internal SOC, we know they don't have the people, we know they don't have the processes, they know they don't have the security specialists on board to be able to contain a threat if they need to. Then we get into the actual service itself. But again, it's not through MDR as a service. So, you know, who monitors your environment, looking for indicators or compromise? Who does that? On what basis do they do that? Again, we're stepping away from the tool side of it, because I'll be frank as well that every MDR provider in the industry all says they do it, right? And they all say they do it well, and they all say they're the best. So that's about us. It's about leading them to the journey to then demonstrate that. If we go MDR versus MDR, it becomes a race to the bottom, and we do this and you do that and we do this. So what we find is really successful is we get the business side of it sorted, and then bring in the fact that we have a pretty robust service to give them the things that they talk about. Full-scale incident response. One of the biggest things that we find with customers, they say, well, incident response, how does that work? And we say, well, in our service, it's unlimited. You get unlimited incident response. That's massive. So, they're not paying a retainer just in case something happens. I get an unlimited incident response. But when we start the next layer of questions, I'm happy to collate these and send them out to you and the team, Scott. I mean, I'm happy to put these down as sort of discovery questions, and I'm not pretending that none of you know this. It's some of it's 101, and you'll probably tell me that. But what happens? You heard this from Rob. What happens if a cyber attack on your own environment outside of business hours? And just wait. What do you do? And very often that leads to a very good discussion about who does what in the industry, in their environments. What would the impact be? I mean, there's a bit of a fear factor question, but what would the impact of if your network was down for an hour, a day, a week? We often come across customers where they can handle a week without their network. So you're structuring the conversation towards the MDR service, the bits that are going to suit them best, as opposed to just a generic managed detection and response conversation. And we find that works very successfully. And again, that same question I asked earlier on, what if you could add a 24/7 monitoring and remediation service, including security alerts from third-party products, because you've established they might have third-party products. So we're not saying, oh, we do this, we do this, we do this. We say, how would, what if we could add that service for you without increasing headcount? How would that sit with you? And most organizations say, that's awesome. We don't have to add headcount, because those big things around people and process. And we really steer away from the product technology at the bottom in our conversations. And then the last sort of one we do focus on, depending on how the conversation goes, is, have you discussed with your cyber insurance provider, what 24/7 monitoring and remediation, maybe it and we're not sure about this yet, but it might help reduce your premiums. Insurance companies might be asking for that as a service nowadays, and I'm pretty sure Aaron can give me some info on that. But a lot of organizations are now struggling to keep their premiums as they were, with big increases in premiums from the insurance companies. So 24/7 monitoring service can help reduce the impact on their premiums from an insurance point of view. So again, these are the questions we're asking, and you'll notice I haven't once said this is what Sophos MDR does, and we find that very successful as a lead into MDR, and then we bring in the big guns like Aaron to really talk about our service in terms of differentiators versus other people's, because everybody says they do it. I was at Gartner recently, and most of the people I spoke to all understood XDR. They all understood MDR, so you don't have to go through that. It's just how they will operate in an MDR service. And Rob made a really, really good point. Operating an MDR service is all about flexibility and using the tools you have and not increasing headcount and still applying the same security posture that companies want to get to. I'll pause there. I said a lot of things.
Anna, I think you had want to ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, I nearly forgot the question.
I can't see on my little screen, sorry.
That's all right. So you're talking about the conversation if they have an internal SOC, right? What would be the objective on that? Or how would you?
Well, an internal SOC, to all intents and purposes, is competitive to an MDR service. So we would spend time on augmenting that service as opposed to being a competitor to the service. So if you've got no internal SOC, then MDR, the service will cover everything you need. If you have an internal SOC, you have to integrate and work with an internal SOC in terms of differentiating. And it's quite difficult to do because an internal SOC may only work business hours. So you would talk about what happens outside of business hours. If there's an internal SOC that reckons they've got pretty good response times, you wouldn't talk about response times with MDR. You'd say, what if we did an extension and what services that we're offering in terms of talking about that internal SOC? So what do they cover? I was with a customer a couple of days ago, and their internal SOC didn't look at their firewalls. So you'd establish what the internal SOC's I suppose capability is, what their landscape is, and then work their way around that. It wouldn't be a traditional MDR pitch.
Yeah, and on that point also, and I'd say that the majority of our customers don't have an internal SOC. So I think that we're kind of in that sweet fish space to position Sophos MDR. And I just want to say, so these positioning statements or discovery questions, they're open-ended questions that allow you to gather information. Yep. You're not actually positioning anything until you've established a baseline of where the customer is. And then that's when you really kind of strike. It's like, okay, look, I'd like to set up a meeting face-to-face or over Teams or whatever that looks like with you to discuss some of the questions that we talked about today. And then you come in and start using those positioning statements, right? And when the customer has objections, you say, oh, well, last time we spoke, you said this. Has something changed in between the time in which we spoke last and now? Have you gone out and established some other form or ability to be able to achieve what we discussed, a week ago or yesterday? And 100% of the time, I can guarantee you the customer's answer is no. Okay, so what are you doing to overcome what we discussed? And does that no longer pose a threat to your company? And the answer is yes, it still poses a threat to my company, and there's something we still need to do about this.
Yeah, spot on, Joshua. That's exactly right. We use these discovery questions, and then we always set up the second meeting. Yep.
So I suppose that's a really good sort of segue is, when we get to Friday, that's predominantly the outcome we're looking for, right? We want to have these initial conversations first. Obviously, depending on the customer and how well you know them. So I assume on the list, Scott and Josh, the list will be, probably start with the customers that you're already in contact with and know to have the conversations. But as you guys work your way through that list, there's going to be customers there that maybe haven't been spoken to for a while, and we don't know them very well. So these initial conversations, the outcome is to not sell something over the phone. It's to get that follow-up meeting where you can really dive into it, because that's when the action happens. And that's when, once you've met them, and then once you've qualified, and the customer's like, yeah, no, I get this. I've got a real big gap here. What's the next step? Can we dive into this? That's when you've got the whole Sophos team there to back you up. So we can help. We can jump on a call. We can, if you've got the larger customer that wants a proof of concept, it's where we can get Aaron involved and say, let's go through this in a bit more detail, especially if they do already have in-house resources. And something really important to note, if you do come across a customer that says, oh no, I've got an in-house SOC, really dive into that to truly understand it, because I think you'll find the vast majority of customers that say they have in-house expertise actually don't. Well, not to the level that we're talking about here. Their version of that was, oh yeah, we've got an IT team that manages us, and one of them's got a degree in, or got a qualification in Cisco security, so he monitors it and looks after our firewall. That's not an in-house SOC. So you've got to make sure that the customer actually understands what a SOC actually is to have that conversation. There's a couple of questions there.
And Rob, just to finish on that, the critical question to ask is, how many of your team are dedicated towards security?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say there. Just to add there, Rob. So, just to add on to everything that was said there, I can't agree more. Discovery is absolutely key, but discovery in different components. So when on the SOC thing, I think we've already established many of your customers won't have, but yes, if they do say they have a SOC or internal security, not only is it about picking the gaps of what they may or may not do, but also depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to management senior up, if you can frame and highlight that perhaps your internal staff could be doing more valuable work, and that digging through logs and dealing with alerts, whether that is 9 to 5 or 24/7, whatever they believe they're doing, if they can understand that work isn't very valuable, it's time consuming, it's hard, you need expertise, and what happens if that person isn't there, and you can be putting those security people to good work in posture improvements or reports or things, whatever it is else it is that can help them, and then offload the horrible work, so to speak, to an MDR service. That's a really good play. But also adding to it is coming back to the discovery piece, understanding what your client is, where they're at on security, obviously, like the fundamental stuff. But we normally see 3 key components on why people want to address, like why they want to do something with cybersecurity, why they will probably entertain a conversation with you. And think of this, RIC. We call it RIC, R-I-C, right? So it's either risk, and that is what everything, the Medibanks, the Optus, the everything that's in the news. I want to minimize my risk. That sometimes can be interchanged with ransomware, that R, because, I don't want to get ransomware. Or it may be insurance. The I stands for insurance, as in they know they need to do something for insurance purposes. So I don't know if anyone on the call has ever filled out a cybersecurity insurance form. Rob touched on it earlier. They're pretty horrible. They've definitely changed dramatically over the last probably 18-ish months, 2 years. They've gone from a couple of questions to many questions. Some of those questions now, depending on the insurer, are specifically asking, do you have like EDR tools or XDR tools? Or they might say, do you aggregate logs? That's what we're talking about here. And the second part to that is, do you monitor that 24/7? That is literally what MDR service does. So it's a tick from insurance perspective. And then the last one is the C, is compliance. So RIC, risk, insurance, compliance. And that is that they're trying to meet some kind of compliance standard. And so if you do end up down that avenue in a call, find out what it is they're trying to achieve. Compliance can get very tricky, and more often than not, people either go down the wrong path with it, or maybe they have misread something. So it's really important to understand that they are going to meet the compliance requirements and determine what exactly it is that they are. Probably in Australia, I deal with it all over the place, but in Australia, you're probably going to hear the Essential 8 a lot. The Essential 8 is pretty weak. In my honest opinion of it. It doesn't call out, I don't know how many of you know your NIST framework really well, but the 5 pillars of NIST, Essential 8 is really, really heavy in just protect. It really doesn't, it sort of touches a couple of the other ones, but it really doesn't touch on detect and respond. which is really obviously where MDR, the D and the R in MDR is really important. So yeah, so I thought I'd just highlight that. Those things are really important. But discovery is key, right? The more information you can get, the better your conversation is going to be. And the more you'll be aligned as like a security consultant trying to help them, and they'll probably want to continue those conversations if they feel like they're getting value.
There's a bunch of questions, I think, Rob. So
yeah, Jared, I think your hand was up first.
Perfect. To be clear on that Essential 8, my understanding of that's always been, it's never been a what's the word? It's never been after the fact. It's always been about prevention. It's probably just, it stops there. It doesn't, just in case we think it goes further. That's where it does what its job was to do. One of the ones I get, I guess, from a few of my customers coming into something like the MDR product of integrating in a managed detection response plan or a response plan and playbooks as well. Is there a way that we can tie playbooks into that, or is that something separate that we're getting a consultant to come in to do?
So from the playbook conversation, would you be meaning more of what they do internally on the back? Because we use obviously playbooks, and that's what our analysts have playbooks on how they respond to individual threats, and that's very much part of it. But what
playbook on certain scenarios. So you might have two playbooks. A bad actor comes in, this happens, it gets infected, you've got a whole heap of files. And then obviously that most of that would go over to Sophos in this instance. So like I guess we're fairly well covered, but that playbook should include the customer as well to go, well, how did they kick that off? If for some reason it hasn't kicked off from Sophos' side, it's probably not a hard one to sort of join a few more dots that may not be joined already.
Yeah, I would tackle it from an incident response plan. Come back to that question. Do you have one? Yep. And then, yes, playbooks make up part of that incident response plan like you were getting to. And it is, if you've seen, examples, X, Y, whatever in the environment, absolutely step one is pass it to the MDR SOC so they can investigate. And then step two, remember the customer needs their own playbooks around, are they going to notify the government? Is it a data breach? Is it this? Are they resetting passwords? Those kind of things. You've got technical playbooks and then bigger incident response playbooks. So yeah, a big part of it is absolutely getting it to Sophos so we can investigate and build the forensics, which may help them determine the next step of their playbook. Which avenue do they take? Is it a false positive? Is it minor?
Is there incident response plans that Sophos can offer in terms of at least a template to sort of work with? I guess I'm cognizant of the fact we don't want non-security sort of engineers going and working that. It's we have to have some involvement from a consultant there, whether that's on Sophos' side or on Spirit's side.
So today we don't have a consultant service to build incident response plans. We do have a generic template. I'm happy to share those with you guys that you can then take on and do it. But that would absolutely be a value add that Spirit should bring to the table to help them with. And I would encourage you to please do that, because a lot of companies say, yeah, we've got an incident response plan. It's call Spirit. So
yep, it's a plan. It's a very limited one. That'd be good if I can get that template shared somewhere.
Yeah,
just a starting point.
Yeah, I think we've got a very generic, like global Sophos one, but I've got a handful of other ones as well. So I'll just jot down a to do and I'll get that to you, Jared.
Awesome, thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Jared. I think Denzel, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I had a quick question. I had two questions actually. XDR, is XDR covered under your MDR platform, or is that a separate product? And if customers ask about it, is that something that we have to engage with on a different conversation, if that makes sense, or is it something that's included as a part of the managed detection and response?
I might take that one real quick, Denzel. So one of the differentiators we have is if you get the MDR service, you get the XDR tool set yourself. So you get the tools that if you want some of your teams to do some of the work in terms of XDR work, which a lot of our customers will still want access to the tools. And if you get MDR, you get XDR as part of that. It's quite a differentiator because a lot of MDR services, they don't provide the tools at the same time.
Understood. Okay, cool. All right. And the second question I had, and sorry in advance if this has already been answered, but I think a lot of cybersecurity insurance policies require like ISO 27001 or something like that. Does MDR sort of give that coverage or tick that box, I suppose?
We can see your screen, Rob.
Yeah.
I can take that one if you like. So ISO 27001 is a massive framework about information security. There are a couple of components in Annex, is it 2 or 12? I forget nowadays. It's been a little while. But there's a couple of components in there, requirements that absolutely lean into what MDR delivers, which again is the 24/7 monitoring, log aggregation components of that nature. So it's absolutely going to help you achieve ISO 27001. Is that the only thing you need to do? Absolutely not. It's quite a big process. I don't know if Spirit are ISO 27001 compliant, but there's a lot to it in terms of information and ongoing maturity. It's a huge thing that's not just IT based as well. Actually, most of ISO 27001 is not IT based, it's information based. So,
sure.
And we don't get asked that question a lot, Denzel, to be perfectly honest. Don't come across that a lot.
Okay.
It's more around the insurance policy that we get asked questions.
What we do, Denzel, get asked a bit about, especially globally, is about our certifications, our business certifications, and that is SOC 2 compliant, PCI DSS. There's a bunch of them. They're all on our trust site on the website, so they're all public and everything's there. So yeah, we do get asked about that, but all that stuff is done. No.
It's good to know. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Very good.
Andrew, could I make an ask for the Friday calling session? You mentioned you kind of had a list of discovery questions. Obviously, I've jotted down kind of my own. But if you have some, I think it's always helpful for the team. I've always liked to do this anyway, is set them up in front of myself when I'm making calls, just to kind of just keep it really fresh in my mind, because I've got my questions, but it's also good to be able to bounce off of your questions as well, which I find really helpful.
Yeah, Josh, I'll send them around. I'll send them to Rob, who can distribute. These are just sort of high-level questions that we use in most of our engagements. I'll send them through for you. It's a good idea to have a little script in front of you.
Yeah. And guys, again, we don't want this to be scripted, of course, but it's always great to have those questions sitting there in front of you. So when you get off one call, you go through them again, have a look at them again, guys. We're not trying to sell Sophos on this. It's not one call, one close. You know, we're not dialing for dollars here. We're setting meetings, right? And I'm really excited about this to get us in front of customers. So there's really good stuff, and I feel there's a lot of value in this for all of our customers.
And especially in the mid-market where they don't have people in process. It's very powerful conversation. Yep. I'll do that. No problem.
Great. Thanks, mate. Sorry to cut you off, Rob.
No, that's right. I was just asking if there's any more questions. I think everyone's good. Everyone's excited. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, different to other Blitz days. I really like what you guys are doing with the whole Teams thing and making it an awful lot of fun. So thanks for obviously allowing us to bring in some of our guys as well to be in the room while it's all happening. It's certainly going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing the results. That's for sure. And the big
I'm excited to beat Pipe.
No chance.
1-1. Here we go.
Hey, I'm not the captain. All pressure's on Webber.
I know, mate, but you're getting targeted, mate. You are targeted.
Story of my life.
See, Scott started with the whole Mexican thing, so it's just it's all on now.
Can we get those pre-recorded ones, Scotty, where we just push the button?
Exactly right.
Yep. You got a few of those.
We started last week. What are you talking about? There's no rules on timing. I was just going to add, Rob, I think
calls at the same time.
Exactly. I think and it's great that Sophos said thank you for the open-mindedness. I think you touched a point earlier that for us at Spirit, one of the key things is as a partner with you guys recognizing this is a conversation starter for us. This is with you guys knowing our database and our challenges with the acquisitions. We've always been looking for ways to come into our customer with some sort of talking stick, and this is a great product that has not only the cloud, the reputation, but it gives us a lead in that can go wider and deeper with conversations. It's very rare, right? We're not coming in with just an antivirus product or a cloud backup. This is pretty pretty hot topic in the cyberspace. So we're pretty fortunate to be having a big kickoff day like this to use it to our advantage, and I think that's exciting. But you guys also get that, so having your team is going to give us that extra clout that we need for some of our new faces in the team. So thank you, mate. It's good.
And look, take advantage of that on the day as well. Andrew's generously, trying to get as many people. Obviously, we won't get everyone there, but and probably maybe not the entire afternoon. But Andrew's team will hopefully circulate through Melbourne and Sydney for a couple of hours each. And so take advantage of that. These guys, they literally. There's a reason why they're in Andrew's team, right? They are the best at what they do, and they have this exact conversation all day, every day. So they'll be in the room while conversations are happening, so you can bounce ideas off it and things like that. So make sure you take full advantage of that, not just for the day, but to get to know them. So know who is there locally and which industries they work with. So they're all industry aligned, to get to know them. So if you've got a whole heap of customers in education, then make sure that you're talking to the Sophos rep on the day. So for ongoing, you've got that resource there. So it's a big advantage.
Yep, love it.
Exactly.
Now, Denny did ask me to do a quiz, and I had one prepared, right? Just 6 quick questions on Kahoot, all ready to go. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, the Sophos Kahoot license expired. And so I can't get it renewed in time. So I do apologize for that. I did have 6 really cool questions.
Wonder if we've got it, Scott. Do we have Kahoots? I feel like Christy.
Save your time. We would win anyway, so don't worry about it. It's all right. Northern's ready. We don't upset Josh's team.
All right, here we go.
That was the last question. Yeah. Who's better, Northern or Southern? But yeah.
Pipes is like the golfer that fills out his scorecard before he plays, so he's not concerned. How'd you shoot today? Yeah,
when you're that great, Josh.
Yeah.
I'm already ahead.
Yeah,
Josh, we've already got 16 appointments booked in.
That's right, mate. Exactly. Oh, wait a second. You're not on my team.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So look, I will get that all sorted, and on Friday, maybe when we do one of the breaks, so because we'll do a couple of hours of calling, and then obviously have a break, and see who's better, basically who's done what, work out what Scott's done wrong, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
During that break, maybe we'll do the quiz then, for a bit of fun. So yeah, if that's so, my apologies for that. All right.
Love it.
Cool.
I would have blamed Kevin, but good one for taking front of the team.
Oh, don't worry. The smack talk internally has already started with Kevin and I behind the scenes as well. So it's gonna be a great day all around. So the question is, where Andrew's going to sit? I reckon he's going to take the whole neutral stance. Although he's in.
I'm a sales director. I'm going to take the winning side.
You can't play the Switzerland card anymore.
Yeah.
Oh dear, love it. Awesome.
If
Thank you,
there's nothing
guys.
else, between now and Friday, I think at 11 a.m. we kick off. Everyone's got my contact details. Just yell out with any questions that we've got. We can jump on a call, whatever we need to do. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I'd rather you ask the questions now, so you know what to look for. And like I said, let's have a great day and kick ass.
If we can get a copy of those questions either sent to Denny so we can circulate that internally, just to get in the right sort of frame, and like Josh said, have that little that prompter there of what we should be looking for.
I'll get it out to you today, guys.
Just in Northern.
Yep.
Well, it's coming to me, so it goes straight to the Southern team.
Not to Denny.
Denny, I trust that this will be circulated to the Northern team about 5 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, at the very last minute.
Perfect.
Not even last minute. It's just
Feel free to follow up though, Jared.
Oh, you need an advantage, Scott. Josh, I can see where you do.
Pipe has already pre-written his.
I'm the red gummy bear, mate. Watch out.
That's very good.
Yeah, just a quick one from me. If anyone needs to do the online training, there are 2 sales courses available, as Robert mentioned earlier. Reach out to me if you have any issues accessing those.
Hey, Southkey, you just want to just flick them into this link, mate? And that way.
Yeah, I'll put the link in, but you will need to log into the portal. So if anyone's having issues with Sophos portal, just ping me.
Okay, yeah. Maybe just put in sales general. for everyone. That'd be cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Good
Well,
stuff, guys. Really appreciate everyone's time.
Thanks
It's been
very
great.
much.
Really pumped. Can't wait for Friday. Can't wait to be a winner again.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. Exciting, and we're here to support.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks,
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
Cheers.